So we're finally here. It's been a long discussion and it took us some time to really decide that we are doing this. This is going to be the first official vlog that we will be doing because a lot of you, there's a lot of few nudges and requests to share more of our journey. We're going to be talking about is the journey, the startup life that we have and the movement about secondhand, sustainability, and a lot more, which I'm sure we're going to evolve into something depending on what you will be requesting as well. So, this is going to be the first episode. Bear with me because it's going to be just me talking, and I hope I don't bore you. Okay, so how did it all started? I think going all the way back to after finishing university, because to put things into context, I would say studying has been easier, I guess, because when you're studying, when you enroll in a course, it's always gonna be scheduled. So what you do is you follow the schedule and you kind of figure out where you're going. Now that you're not following schedule, you have to create or make a constant decision of where you will be going or what you will be doing. And the very first question that I ask myself is, what do I would want to do with my life? It was a good solid 6 months of me trying to figure out what really makes me happy or what drives me and really makes me excited about life. And I've always been so interested in the fashion industry. Way back, like I got a big influence from my mom. At the same time, when I was in university, I would always make or design my clothes, and where I was staying there was like a nearby tailor, so I would like buy the fabric and have my design and have it made. So I've always been interested. I never know that I would be in the fashion industry or I wanted to be in the fashion industry. But when I was questioning myself with that 6 months, I got so hooked with the industry, the creative aspect of the fashion industry, the design, and what we see on social media, the glitz and glam of the fashion industry. So I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to design, so maybe I should try the fashion industry. Okay, I want to be a fashion designer. So what should I be doing to be that? So that's the first thing that I did. Enrolled a few courses in the fashion industry and some pattern making, and to learn how to do or how to use sewing machines because have never touched sewing machines before. I only tried to design, and I've really immersed myself in the industry. So at some point, I was in all the fashion events in Singapore. Like I was always a volunteer in the backstage, and I've also interned in with like local designers, and I got so lucky to be able to intern with this designer who he had the opportunity to dress Naomi Campbell, and it was like internship with him was very intense. Like there was some time like he got invited to show in Malaysia Fashion Week, and we were like finishing his collection, and we had no sleep for freaking 48 hours. So after finishing the collection for 48 hours, no sleep. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna sleep in the car because it's gonna be 5 hours drive. And I was so scared because he has no sleep. I had no sleep. So if I will sleep, maybe he will fall asleep, and it was so dangerous. So I also wake up the whole time that we were driving to KL, and we were just like we were making we make coffee as our water then, and those were just like the crazy times when I was working or trying to immerse myself in the fashion industry, and it really opened a lot of friendships at the same time, networks that I have now in the industry, because I didn't know what to expect and what the fashion business is until I really went there and put myself out there. understanding that and having a small knowledge of how the whole industry works, that's where I decided to have my own line. So I created PR. It was a bespoke line where I make clothes for my friends and a few clients. So I was trying to establish my clientele, and I was also doing some fashion shows here and there, and just like a few sketches that I had, and also joined like some competition. Unlucky, or I was not good enough. I didn't make it. So this is like, I think this was like Harper's Bazaar when I joined. This was my application form. It was fun and it was really fulfilling, the creative aspect of my desire to use my life, I guess, or to make the most of what I was doing. But there was like one specific time that I was doing, I think it was a dress from a specific client, and I was like making a lot of mistakes, like, because I cannot execute the design that I made, so it's just funny. So I think it was 3 times that I have to buy the same fabric because I was making the same mistake. And after making that third mistake, I just stopped and I was like, I looked at my table, I looked at my studio then, which is like the living room of where I was staying, and it was like full of waste fabric. And I was like, whoa. I questioned myself, like, if this is how much waste that I am creating as a single, or like, a bespoke company, how much more the bigger companies have, like, how much waste. It was the time that I asked myself, like, this is not so much fulfilling me. So the creative part, the fashion industry was fulfilling it, but the meaningful and impact part was missing. So I was like, okay, I like the fashion industry. This is where I should be in. I kind of like, I kind of liked it. At the same time, I was having fun, but I was asking myself, how can I make it more meaningful? So that's where all the digging and like all the researching happened. That's where I discovered that fashion is actually one of the most polluting industry. And I didn't know that even when I was like, speaking or making connections with everyone who are in the industry, they also had like zero knowledge about the back end. So what we all are concerned is like the finished product, or like, the fashion shows, the shoots that we have. But there's a new world in the fashion industry that is not talked about, and that's where I discovered it. And thanks to True Cost, and I think it was also the year where Rana Plaza, like the biggest accident in the fashion industry, happened. So it was all over the news. So I was like, okay, now I see a bit of the problem of the industry. If I would want to continue, I don't want to be part of that problem, but I would want to provide a solution. And then the solution that I know was to raise awareness, because through that awareness and the knowledge that I got from my own research and from my conversations with different experts, it again changed how I see and how I would want to be involved in the fashion industry. So I met a few people who were already doing or promoting sustainability. I got so lucky. Like, there was one event, the first event that I attended, that is not part, or that is not fashion related. So it was about sustainability. Then I met this guy on that day where I met him. He was like, there is going to be the first fashion revolution. If you're interested, you can go and attend and see what you can learn or who you can meet. And that's where I met my co-founder for the nonprofit organization, Agatha. And that was like a whole new game for me of like trying to discover the industry in a different level, in a different way on how I'm gonna approach it, I guess. So yeah, it all started there. And then we decided, like, okay, let's make a nonprofit organization. The aim again is to spread that awareness, and hoping to have the same reaction or the same realization from people who will be attending the event. We created a lot of documentary screenings, all the films that we can think of that is related to the fashion industry that highlights the different aspects of the whole supply chain. We had panel discussions, and yeah, so we did it for a couple of times, and it was just so fun, and like meeting a lot of people who has different concerns at the same time who love fashion, and now discovering how polluting the fashion industry also changed their behavior. After a few events, people were like, okay, we know what we know now. What's next? How can we apply the things that we know in order for us to really create a tangible action that can be part of that solution? And it was kind of tricky because in Singapore, there is no garment factories. We don't see the direct effect of the pollution that the fashion industry is making. What we have here is consumption and I guess abundance. They may not need it that much, but they're buying it because it's very convenient and it's very affordable, and that has become a problem because a lot of people are storing clothes they're no longer using. So that was the kind of problem that we saw in Singapore, at least. How can we create an easy platform where the objective is to lessen the textile waste, to maximize what's already been produced? How can we retain that aspect while dressing up to empower ourselves, but at the same time also empowering the industry or the people who are making the clothes? So that was the whole big question of like, how can we create that tangible action? And swapping came about, which now I totally like, I cannot remember how it all started, but I know that we were discussing, but let me, to be sure of all the information that I'm sharing is correct, let's call Agatha if she answers and ask her, how did we really started? Hey.
Yeah, okay, sounds
Okay.
much better.
Better.
Go
Okay,
on.
cool. So we're doing a recording for the vlog, and then we are trying to recall how the swap started, and I cannot remember. Was it suggested by Yumiko, or like how did we came about the idea of doing the swap? Do you remember?
I remember the first time that it was done was for the first fashion revolution, and that was under Donna. But she did the very first one for like the year before, like the fashion revolution one. Yeah, so it was like a very small one, and she was doing it under Top Swap.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and then we did it on the second year.
Yeah, the bigger
one.
like a standalone. Yeah, but I can't remember. Maybe it was Yumiko.
Yeah, I
can't
think.
remember. It just happened.
I know it happened so fast. Okay, I remember now. Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
There you go. That's the answer. So, yeah. So the first fashion revolution that I attended, which I was not part of yet, I was a participant. They had the fashion, the swap under top swap. We can replay that. I forgot the name.
Yeah, under Top Swap.
So it was organized by Donna. So Donna was the first one of the first few people who organized swaps, but she does it in her house. It was just a group of friends. So what we wanted is to make it in a bigger scale with more people who can join in. And yes, the very first one was in National Design Center. They give us the space, and I remember we started at 4 p.m., but we were there about 1 p.m., and it was an outdoor swap. It was so hot, and like everyone was just like having sunburn, and we were trying to hang the clothes. And by then we were really making it a more boutique or retail experience where we tried to organize clothes. I had that aha moment, I would say, where I was like, oh cool, so this is still part of the fashion industry, the industry that I would want to be in. But at the same time, this work is I find it meaningful and there's an impact because we are actually trying to solve a problem, which is the being wasteful, and to address, you know, the desire to express yourself through clothes, but not harming the planet and also your wallet. So that that specific event or that moment, that was the realization that like I would want this to be a full on, and the idea to scale up the movement so everyone can be part of. So that was that moment where I was like, you know what, let's do this full time. And we have somehow had like a small yet supportive community with whatever we do, they're gonna be there to support, and also they're having fun. And we also have like a strong volunteers who also would want to be there in every events that we have. So decided to make a Kickstarter campaign to make it official, a crowdfunding campaign. So the first name was Swaggles, and the first event that we had under Swaggles was actually with Green is the New Black. So that was the first Swaggles event that is already, you know, part of a social enterprise. So that was the first one. And then I was so ambitious of like, you know, I think the goal that we had was 22,000 to hit the first crowdfunding campaign. We were a bit close to what's this, fulfilling or hitting the target. No, I think we only hit about 14K, so it did not happen. But I think the crowdfunding was never been the metric for us to decide whether we were gonna be continuing or not. And then the next part of how our journey evolves, this is gonna be a bit touchy. So from Swaggles, it became Swopaholic, and I'm not sure how much information that I can share because again, this is a bit touchy topic, I guess.